Black wife dialed the wrong number. Whispered. He won't let me leave. Korean Mafia boss. Keep talking. I'm coming. The penthouse windows were floor to ceiling, 60 stories up, with a view that used to make me feel like I was floating above the city. Now they just remind me that I'm trapped in a glass cage. Richard likes to joke with his friends that I'm afraid of heights. His explanation for why I rarely leave our home anymore. The truth is, I'm afraid of him. Afraid of the coldness that flashes in his eyes when I displease him. Afraid of the calculated way he dismantles my excuses, my hopes, my very sense of reality, one precision-cut remark at a time. 3 years ago, I was Zora Williams, rising star in the art world, the youngest Black woman ever appointed as senior curator at the Wellington Gallery. I specialized in emerging artists from the African diaspora, creating spaces where Black creativity could shine without being filtered through the white gaze. My exhibition on contemporary Nigerian textile artists made the cover of Art Forum. People whispered that I was changing the landscape. That was before Richard Harrington decided I would be his next acquisition. Wealthy, charming, white, with that old money confidence that comes from never once questioning your place in the world. He pursued me relentlessly. Flowers at my office, reservations at impossible restaurants, private viewings of collections I'd been desperate to see. He spoke about my work with such apparent understanding, such seeming respect. When he introduced me to other wealthy collectors, doors opened. Opportunities materialized. I mistook control for devotion, possession for passion. By the time I recognized the difference, his grip was already tight around my life. The signs were there from the beginning, flashing red against the monochrome backdrop of his world. The constant calls if I didn't answer immediately. The way he'd interrogate me about my male colleagues' intentions, making innocent professional relationships seem tainted, suspicious. The subtle undermining, "Are you sure you want to wear that to the gallery opening? It's a bit ethnic, don't you think? I don't think your concept really holds up intellectually, but if you're passionate about it, darling, I'll support you." Each comment precisely calculated to make me doubt myself, to make his approval feel like salvation. My mother saw it at our engagement dinner. The proprietary way his hand rested on the back of my neck, the manner in which he ordered for me without asking what I wanted. "Zora," she whispered when he stepped away, "that man doesn't love you. He loves owning you." I dismissed her concerns as old-fashioned, as not understanding modern relationships. Now I wake up every morning wishing I had listened. By the time we married in a lavish ceremony covered by Vogue, influential art curator weds finance mogul in cultural fusion, he'd already isolated me from half my friends. The Black artists I championed were suddenly difficult or politically motivated. My college friends were holding me back or jealous of my success. By our first anniversary, celebrated in a private villa in Santorini that felt more like a beautiful prison, my sister Nia was the only person he hadn't managed to drive away, and even those calls were becoming less frequent because he always seemed to be listening, hovering, monitoring. Tonight was the breaking point. My gallery offered me a chance to curate a major exhibition in Paris. 3 months in Europe, a career-defining opportunity to showcase Black feminine perspectives in contemporary art. When I told Richard over dinner, his favorite steakhouse, the chef who knows exactly how he likes his ribeye prepared, the waiter who never asks if I want a second glass of wine because Richard always answers for me, something darkened in his eyes. He didn't shout. Richard never shouted. Shouting was for the unrefined, the emotional, the kind of people he quietly disdained. He just said very quietly, "You know I can't accompany you for that long, and I don't think spending 3 months around French men is a good idea for our marriage." When I said I was going anyway, that this was too important to my career to pass up, he smiled that cold, terrifying smile that never reaches his eyes, the one that makes him look like a predator assessing prey. "You seem to forget, Zora, that I'm on the gallery board now. One call about your instability, and not only will Paris disappear, but so will your position here. Who do you think they'll believe? The respected investment banker who generously supports the arts, or the emotional Black woman with a history of anxiety? I don't have a history of anxiety. I have a present of anxiety. One that began the day I married him and realized I'd made a catastrophic mistake. One that intensifies every time he checks my phone, questions my whereabouts, or stands too close behind me while I email colleagues. After his threat, he left for a business dinner with associates who probably don't even know I exist beyond the occasional mention as my wife, the curator. But not before activating our home security system, his newest addition to our smart home. The elevator won't come without a code. The doors alert his phone if they open. The windows, 60 stories up, don't open more than 3 inches. I'm suspended above the ground with nowhere to go, a bird in a glass and steel cage. My cell phone sits on his desk in his office, where he insists I leave it when he's out to avoid distractions. But in his meticulousness, his absolute confidence in his control, he forgot about the landline in the bedroom, the one we keep for emergencies, the one he probably assumes I've forgotten exists in the age of smartphones. My fingers are shaking so badly I can barely dial Nia's number. I've memorized it, one of the few numbers I still know by heart from the days before contacts lists rendered memorization obsolete. I need her to come get me, need her to help me escape before he returns, before he makes good on his threat to destroy everything I've worked for. The phone rings 3 times before someone answers. I don't even wait for a greeting, too desperate, too afraid that Richard might return early, might catch me in this small act of rebellion. Nia, I whisper, terror making my voice crack, making my breath come in shallow gasps. It's me. I need help. He won't let me leave. Richard's gone completely crazy. He's threatening to destroy my career if I take the Paris position. He's locked me in. Please come get me. I can't breathe here anymore. I feel like I'm dying by inches. The silence on the other end stretches for seconds that feel like hours. I clutch the phone tighter, knuckles white against the receiver. Has the call dropped? Did Richard somehow intercept it? This is not Nia. A man's voice finally responds, his words careful, measured, with a slight accent I can't place. I think you have the wrong number. My stomach drops, a stone plummeting 60 stories to the pavement below. I've misdialed in my panic. I should hang up immediately. Instead, I start to cry, huge silent tears that burn down my cheeks, the culmination of months, years, of fear and isolation suddenly unleashed by this simple mistake. I'm sorry, I manage, trying to keep my voice steady, to sound like a normal person who is simply dialed incorrectly and not a woman on the verge of shattering. I'll go. Wait. The voice is sharper now, commanding in a way that makes me freeze with the receiver halfway to its cradle. You said someone won't let you leave. Are you in danger right now? I should lie. I should hang up. I should pretend this was all a mistake, a silly misunderstanding, nothing for a stranger to concern himself with. But something in his voice, the calm authority, the absence of judgment, the simple directness of the question, breaks the dam inside me. Yes, I whisper, the admission a relief and a terror all at once. My husband. He's locked me in our apartment, threatened me. He monitors everything, my phone, my email, who I see. Tonight he said he'd destroy my career if I try to leave him. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm disappearing. More silence. I hear muffled voices in the background, like he's covered the receiver to speak to someone else. Is he calling the police? Telling someone about the crazy woman who called the wrong number? Laughing at my predicament? Where are you? He asks when he returns. No hint of disbelief in his tone. The Archer Building. Penthouse. I shouldn't be telling a stranger this. Richard would be furious. But what does it matter now? But it doesn't matter. The security is extensive. You need codes to get up here. And he'll be back soon. He never stays out long. The Archer on Riverside Drive? He confirms. And there's something in the precision of his question that makes me believe he's taking this seriously. Yes. My name is Minho Park, he says. And there's a rustling sound, movement. Keep talking to me. I'm coming. No, you don't understand. You can't just. I understand perfectly. He interrupts, and the absolute conviction in his voice silences my protest. And I can. Keep talking. Tell me about these security measures. Something in his tone makes me believe him. Not hope. Hope is a luxury I surrendered months ago. But believe that this stranger named Minho Park might actually be capable of doing what he says. So I explain about the elevator codes, the door alerts, the security guards in the lobby who know Richard, who would call him immediately if they saw anyone suspicious. Is there anything you could use as a weapon if necessary? Minho asks, and the question should terrify me, should send me spiraling into even greater panic. Instead, it clarifies something. For the first time, someone is acknowledging the danger I'm in. Not minimizing, not making excuses for Richard, not telling me I'm overreacting or being too sensitive or misinterpreting his love. There's a fire poker by the fireplace, I say, glancing at the ornate set Richard had custom-made to match the penthouse's aesthetic. And kitchen knives. Good. Get the poker, keep it with you. How long until your husband returns? He said 2 hours. That was 40 minutes ago. Plenty of time, Minho says, and I hear the sound of a car door closing, an engine starting. Tell me your name. Zora. Zora Williams. Well, Harrington now, but I trail off, realizing how little I recognize myself in Richard's name. How it sits on me like an ill-fitting coat, something I've been forced to wear despite it never truly belonging to me. Zora, he repeats, as if testing the feel of it. I need you to stay calm and stay on this line. My associates and I will be there shortly. Associates? Who are you? The question finally occurs to me, though in my desperation it feels almost secondary. Someone who doesn't tolerate men who imprison women, he answers simply. How long has this been happening, Zora? And just like that, I'm telling this stranger everything. The gradual isolation, the subtle undermining, the way Richard convinced me I was too sensitive, too paranoid, too everything until I began to doubt my own perceptions. The financial control. My name isn't on any accounts, though my salary goes directly into one he manages. The tracking of my phone. The coincidental appearances at lunch meetings with colleagues. The way he hired my assistant at the gallery, someone who reports my every move back to him. I tell Minho about the time I tried to talk to Richard's mother about his behavior, only to have her pat my hand and say, all marriages have adjustment periods, dear. Richard just likes things a certain way. I tell him about the weekend trip to the Hamptons that turned into a nightmare when I spoke too long to one of Richard's business associates, and how he didn't speak to me for 3 days afterward, a silence more punishing than any shouting could have been. Minho listens without interrupting. I can hear the sounds of traffic through the phone, the occasional murmured direction to someone driving. When I finally fall silent, emotionally exhausted, he speaks. None of this is your fault, he says firmly. Men like your husband are skilled manipulators. They target strong, capable women specifically for the challenge of breaking them. They see independence as something to be conquered, not celebrated. I don't feel strong anymore. I admit, the words scraping my throat like broken glass. Yet here you are, fighting back, he counters. We're 5 minutes away. Do you have access to the building's service entrance codes? I do. Richard made me memorize them in case of emergencies, by which he meant anything he might need while at work. I recite them to Minho, then add, but there are cameras everywhere. Cameras can be managed. He says with such certainty that I wonder again who this man is. Is there anywhere in your apartment that isn't visible from the main living area? Somewhere you could wait safely. The guest bathroom has no windows and a solid lock. Perfect. Once we're inside the building, I want you to take the fire poker, go into that bathroom, and lock the door. Don't come out until you hear my voice. Understood? Yes. Good. We're here now. I grab the heavy brass fire poker and hurry to the guest bathroom, locking the door behind me. I sit on the edge of the massive marble tub, weapon clutched in my trembling hands, phone pressed to my ear. Through it, I hear muffled conversations, electronic beeps, the sound of a door opening. Then silence. Minho, I whisper, panic rising again. We're in the service elevator, he replies quietly. 2 minutes to your floor. Those 2 minutes stretch into eternity. I'm straining to hear any sound from the apartment. The main elevator arriving, the front door opening, Richard returning early. Instead, there's just the pounding of my heart and Minho's steady breathing through the phone. Then I hear it, the faint sound of the service entrance door opening. We're in, Minho confirms. Stay where you are. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving quietly through my apartment. Clear, a voice says in the background. Zora. Minho calls out, his voice closer now. It's Minho Park. We're alone in the apartment. You can come out. I unlock the bathroom door with shaking fingers, emerging slowly, the fire poker still gripped tightly in my hand. Standing in my hallway is a man who doesn't match his voice at all. I expected someone older, harder looking. Minho Park is perhaps in his mid-30s, dressed in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit that looks effortless on his lean frame. His face is a study in contrasts, elegant, almost beautiful features offset by eyes that miss nothing, that have seen things I can't imagine. Behind him stand 3 other men, similarly dressed, watching the room with the hypervigilance of soldiers in enemy territory. We need to move quickly, Minho says. Your husband could return at any time. I can't just leave, I say, though every fiber of my being wants to. He'll find me. He'll destroy everything I've worked for. My career, my reputation, they're all I have left. Minho steps forward, maintaining a respectful distance. Right now, we focus on your safety. Everything else can be addressed once you're out of here. Do you have identification, medication, anything irreplaceable you need to take? I think of my grandmother's wedding ring, hidden in my jewelry box because Richard said it clashed with the engagement ring he'd selected. The flash drive with my research for the Paris exhibition. The emergency credit card Nia insisted I keep that Richard doesn't know about. The small sketchbook where I still jot down exhibition ideas, one of the few creative outlets he hasn't managed to control. 5 minutes, I say. Give me 5 minutes to pack. Minho nods to one of his men, who immediately moves to watch the main entrance. Another begins doing something to the security panel near the door, his fingers moving with practiced efficiency. For minutes, Minho corrects gently. I move with the frantic efficiency of someone who has imagined this escape 1,000 times. Essentials only. The things Richard can't replace or destroy to hurt me. When I return to the living room, a small suitcase in hand, Minho is examining a painting on the wall, one of my favorites, a contemporary piece by a young black artist from Detroit that speaks to urban decay and resilience in equal measure. Interesting texture work, he comments as if we're at a gallery opening and not in the middle of my escape from an abusive marriage. It's one of the few things here that's actually mine, I reply. I bought it before I met Richard. He hates it, says it disrupts the aesthetic of the room, but it was the one thing I wouldn't let him remove. He nods once, understanding immediately. We should take it then. One of his men carefully removes the painting from the wall, wrapping it in a blanket from the couch with surprising gentleness. The security system has been temporarily disabled, Minho informs me. It will appear as a technical glitch, not intentional tampering. We'll use the service elevator and exit through the loading dock. My car is waiting. And then what? I ask, the enormity of what I'm doing finally hitting me. I'm leaving my husband. I'm walking away from the life I've built, however compromised it's become. I'm putting my trust in a complete stranger. And then you'll be safe, he says simply, as if that's all that matters. Maybe it is. We're halfway to the service entrance when the main elevator pings. The sound freezes me mid-step, my heart seizing. He's back early, I gasp, terror flooding my system. Minho moves with startling speed, placing himself between me and the main entrance. Change of plans, he says calmly to his men. Protocol 3. They rearrange themselves instantly, 2 moving toward the main door, 1 staying with us. This way, Minho says, guiding me toward the service entrance. Quickly and quietly, we're almost there when I hear the front door open. Richard's voice calls out, Zora, why are the lights off? Minho's hand is firm but gentle on my arm as he guides me through the service door. His associate is already holding the elevator. We step in just as I hear Richard's footsteps coming down the hall. Zora? His voice is sharper now, suspicious. The elevator doors slide closed, and we begin our descent. I'm shaking uncontrollably, torn between terror and disbelief at what I've just done. Your husband won't follow, Minho says, correctly reading my fear. My men will ensure he understands that pursuing you would be inadvisable. They won't hurt him, will they? I ask, surprised by my own concern for a man who has caused me so much pain. Minho studies me with those perceptive eyes. They will explain the situation to him. Physical persuasion is a last resort. The way he says it, clinical, detached, should frighten me. Instead, it's strangely comforting. This man operates by rules I don't understand, but they seem to include protecting women like me. We exit through the loading dock, where a sleek black Mercedes waits. Minho opens the door for me, and I slide into the leather interior that smells of sandalwood and something distinctly masculine. He gets in beside me, and the car pulls away from the curb with smooth precision. Only when we're several blocks away do I finally exhale, a breath I feel like I've been whole. Ding for years. Thank you, I whisper, the words entirely inadequate. Minho turns to face me, his expression solemn. No one deserves to be imprisoned, especially not in their own home. Where are we going? I ask, suddenly aware that I've placed my life in the hands of a complete stranger. Somewhere safe, he replies. I own a building across town. The top floor is secure and private. You can stay there until we determine next steps. He inclines his head slightly. Unless you prefer to handle this alone. I have resources that could be useful to you, but I understand if you're hesitant to accept further assistance. I study him in the dim light of the passing street lamps. His profile is strong, refined. There's something almost regal in his bearing. And yet, despite the expensive suit and commanding presence, he doesn't trigger the warning bells that Richard did when we first met. Perhaps because Minho hasn't once tried to tell me what to feel or think. He hasn't minimized my situation or questioned my decisions. Who are you, Minho Park? I ask directly. Really? He considers me for a long moment. I run several businesses in this city and internationally. Import-export primarily. Art acquisition is one of our legitimate enterprises. The emphasis on legitimate isn't lost on me. And the non-legitimate ones? A ghost of a smile touches his lips. Those allow me to help people in situations where the law might be inefficient. You're in the Mafia, I state bluntly, too emotionally exhausted for euphemisms. That's an oversimplification, but not entirely inaccurate, he concedes. The Korean community has its own structures and traditions. We protect our own. I'm not Korean. No. But you needed protection all the same. The car turns into an underground garage beneath a sleek high-rise in a part of the city I rarely visit. Unlike the ostentatious glass tower where Richard imprisoned me, this building is elegant but understated, the kind that wealthy people who don't need to prove their wealth might choose. My men will bring your belongings up, Minho says as he escorts me to a private elevator that requires both a key card and a fingerprint to operate. Is there anyone you want to contact? Someone who can verify who I am, perhaps, to ease your mind. The concern for my comfort, my agency, is so foreign after years with Richard that it nearly brings me to tears again. My sister, Nia, I say, but Richard monitors my phone. I don't have a way to contact her. Use mine, he offers, pulling out a sleek black phone and handing it to me. It's secure. The elevator opens directly into a stunning penthouse apartment. Unlike Richard's sterile showcase of wealth, this space feels lived in despite its elegance. The art on the walls catches my professional eye immediately. An eclectic but expertly curated collection of both Eastern and Western pieces, traditional and contemporary, arranged to create subtle dialogues between cultures and time periods. You have excellent taste, I comment, momentarily distracted from my crisis by the unexpected beauty surrounding me. I appreciate beauty and authenticity, Minho replies. Please make yourself comfortable. The guest suite is through that door. It has everything you should need. I dial Nia's number from memory, praying she'll answer an unknown call at this hour. When I hear her voice, suspicious and guarded, I nearly collapse with relief. Nia, it's me. I left Richard. I'm safe. Her immediate barrage of questions is so familiar, so comforting that I start crying again. Through hiccuping sobs, I explain what happened, the wrong number, Minho's rescue, where I am now. Girl, You got in a car with a strange man who says he's in the Korean Mafia? Nia's voice rises with each word. Have you lost your mind? What if he's a trafficker or something? He's standing right here. Nia, I say, embarrassed. And he just risked a lot to help me. Put him on the phone, she demands. I hold the phone out to Min-ho, who takes it with a slight bow of his head. This is Min-ho Park, he says, then falls silent, listening. Occasionally he nods or says, yes, I understand, or that's a reasonable concern. After several minutes, he says, of course, I'll have a car sent for you immediately. The address is... He provides details, then returns the phone to me. Your sister is formidable, he comments with what might be respect. She's coming here. I've sent a car. You didn't have to do that. She's concerned for your safety. It's understandable. He moves toward the kitchen. Would you like tea while we wait? Or something stronger, perhaps? Tea would be nice, I reply, sinking onto a sofa that probably costs more than I make in 3 months. As Min-ho prepares tea with practiced movements that suggest ritual rather than mere beverage making, I try to process everything that's happened in the last 2 hours. I've left my husband. I'm sitting in a Korean Mafia boss's penthouse. I have no idea what tomorrow will bring. You're having regrets, Min-ho observes as he places a delicate ceramic cup in front of me. The tea inside is pale gold and smells of orchids. Not regrets, I correct. Fear. Richard won't let this go. He's vindictive. He'll come after my career, my reputation. Min-ho sits across from me, his posture perfect but somehow not rigid. Men like your husband rely on fear to maintain control. When that fails, they attempt to destroy what their victim values most. In your case, your professional standing. Exactly. What if he couldn't? Min-ho asks simply. What do you mean? What if certain financial irregularities were discovered in his accounts? What if his own reputation became questionable? The implication hangs in the air between us. I should be horrified. Instead, I'm intrigued. After years of powerlessness, the idea that Richard might experience even a fraction of the vulnerability he's inflicted on me is intoxicating. You could do that? I have certain resources, he says carefully. Information can be a more effective weapon than violence, especially when dealing with men whose power comes from public perception. Before I can respond, the elevator announces Nia's arrival. She bursts into the apartment like a hurricane, all protective fury and suspicion. She wraps me in a hug that nearly cracks my ribs, then turns to assess Min-ho with narrowed eyes. So you're the Korean Mafia boss who answered my sister's wrong number, she says bluntly. If Min-ho is offended by her directness, he doesn't show it. He merely inclines his head. I prefer businessman, but yes. Nia circles him like a shark, taking in the expensive suit, the quiet confidence, the apartment that screams money but tasteful money. Why help her? She demands. What's your angle? Nia, I protest. Min-ho holds up a hand. It's a fair question. I helped because I could. Because no one should be imprisoned against their will. I have no angle, as you put it. Bullshit, Nia retorts. Men always want something. A flicker of something. Amusement? Respect? Crosses Min-ho's face. Then consider it a debt settled with the universe. My younger sister was once in a situation not unlike your sister's. No one helped her when she needed it most. I couldn't change her past, but I could change Zora's future. The simple statement silences even Nia. We both recognize the ring of truth in his words, the genuine pain beneath the composed exterior. I'm sorry about your sister, I say softly. Min-ho's expression closes like shutters drawn against a storm. It was a long time ago. The moment stretches, heavy with unspoken histories. Then Min-ho straightens slightly, back to business. You're both welcome to stay here as long as necessary. The guest wing has 2 bedrooms. Tomorrow, we can discuss more permanent arrangements and how to handle your husband. I should call the police, I say, though the words lack conviction. Richard has friends in the department, connections everywhere. You can, Min-ho agrees, but I suggest waiting until we've secured evidence of his threats and financial control. Police take domestic situations more seriously when presented with concrete evidence rather than one person's word against another's. He's right, Nia admits grudgingly. Richard's got half the city's elite in his pocket. We need leverage. I have people who can gather what you need, Minho offers. Discreetly and legally, he adds, seeing my expression. Bank records, email communications, security footage from your building. All of which can be presented to the authorities. Why would you do all this for me? I ask, the question that's been burning since he first said he was coming to help me. Minho considers me with those deep, unfathomable eyes. Because freedom should never be a luxury. Because strength should be celebrated, not punished. Because I recognize in you something worth protecting. Something shifts in my chest at his words. A recognition. A kinship I don't fully understand but feel nonetheless. This man sees me, really sees me, in a way Richard never did. Not as a possession or an ornament or a reflection of his own success, but as a human being with value intrinsic to myself. Thank you, I say again. The word's still inadequate, but all I have to offer. Minho nods once, acceptance and acknowledgement in the simple gesture. Get some rest, Zora. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. He's right about that. The days that follow are a crash course in dismantling a life built on quicksand. With Minho's resources supporting me, I file for divorce and a restraining order. We gather evidence of Richard's financial manipulation, his threats, the surveillance systems he installed without my knowledge. When Richard attempts to retaliate by contacting the gallery board, Minho is 3 steps ahead, having already met with the director to explain the situation. It turns out that Minho Park is more than just a mysterious businessman with criminal connections. He's a significant art collector, one the gallery has been trying to court for years. His endorsement carries weight. When he mentions that he's been following my curatorial work with interest, doors that Richard tried to slam shut suddenly reopen. I stay in Minho's guest suite far longer than I intended. Days stretch into weeks as we navigate the treacherous waters of my separation. Nia returns to her own apartment after the initial crisis passes, but she visits daily, gradually warming to Minho despite her initial suspicions. He watches you, you know, she tells me one evening as we share wine on Minho's balcony. He's away on business, giving us the space to speak freely. What do you mean? Not in a creepy way, she clarifies, but when you're talking about art, explaining why a particular piece matters. He watches you like you're the most fascinating thing he's ever seen. He's just being polite. I dismiss, though something flutters in my stomach at her words. Zora, Nia says flatly. That man is many things, but just polite isn't one of them. He's interested in you. He feels responsible for me. It's different. Is it? She challenges. Because I've seen how you look at him too. I don't answer because I can't deny it. In the weeks I've spent in Minho's orbit, I've found myself increasingly drawn to him, to his quiet intelligence, to the careful way he considers every word before speaking, to the respect he shows everyone from his business associates to the cleaning staff, to the passion that flares when he discusses art or history or literature. He's nothing like Richard, whose charm was all surface, designed to dazzle and distract. Minho's appeal runs deeper, like a current you don't notice until it's already carried you out to sea. When he returns from his business trip, something has changed. There's a new awareness between us, a tension that wasn't there before. Or perhaps it was, and I'm only now allowing myself to acknowledge it. The Paris exhibition, he says over dinner in his kitchen, a meal he insisted on cooking himself. The Korean dishes he's prepared are complex and delicious, a testament to skills I wouldn't have guessed he possessed. Have you decided whether to accept? The gallery has reinstated the offer, with profuse apologies for the misunderstanding. Richard's influence has waned as whispers of his financial improprieties spread through certain circles, whispers I suspect Minho had a hand in starting. I'm not sure, I admit. Part of me wants to go to prove I can. But another part is afraid, he finishes when I trail off. Not of Richard, I clarify. He can't touch me now, but of leaving just when I'm finding my footing again. Just when. I don't complete the thought. Minho sets down his chopsticks, his full attention on me. Just when what, Zora? The way he says my name, with that slight emphasis on the first syllable, sends warmth through my chest. Just when things here are becoming interesting, I say finally, meeting his gaze directly. Something flares in his eyes. Satisfaction, perhaps, or relief. Paris has exceptional art, he says casually, though his expression is anything but. And I happen to have business interests there as well. If you decided to accept the position, it wouldn't necessarily mean leaving everything behind. Are you suggesting you'd visit me in Paris? I'm suggesting that connections worth maintaining can survive distance. He refills my wine glass with precise movements. And that some journeys are better taken with companions who understand their significance. It's the closest he's come to acknowledging whatever is growing between us. Not a declaration, but an opening. Possibility. I'd like that, I say softly. His smile, rare and genuine, transforms his face. For a moment, I glimpse the man beneath the composed exterior, the one with passions and vulnerabilities he keeps carefully guarded. I accept the Paris position the next day. As I prepare for my departure, Minho proves an unexpected ally, leveraging his connections to secure me an apartment in a building he assures me is safe and private. He never presumes, never assumes, always careful to present options rather than directives. The night before I leave, we stand on his balcony overlooking the city lights. The same city that once felt like a prison now spreads before us like a constellation of possibilities. I never thanked you properly, I say, breaking the comfortable silence between us. You don't need to thank me, Zora. I do. Not just for the rescue, though that was... I shake my head, still unable to fully process that night, but for what came after. For showing me what respect actually looks like. For reminding me who I am when I'd almost forgotten. Minho turns to face me, his expression serious. You did that yourself. Your strength was always there, merely dormant, like embers waiting for air. You provided the oxygen, I counter. Perhaps. His gaze drops to my lips, then returns to my eyes, a silent question. I answer by closing the distance between us. His kiss is like everything else about him, controlled but with depths of passion beneath the surface. His hands cradle my face as if I'm something precious, something to be cherished rather than possessed. When we part, breathless and slightly stunned, he presses his forehead to mine. I've wanted to do that since the night you walked into my apartment and started analyzing my art collection instead of falling apart. I laugh softly. I've wanted you to do that since you handed me your phone and let me call my sister. No questions asked. We're both drawn to strange things, it seems, he murmurs. Or perhaps just to people who see us clearly, I suggest. That night changes everything and nothing. I still leave for Paris the next day, but with the certainty that I'm not leaving alone. Minho doesn't make promises of forever. He's too pragmatic, too aware of life's uncertainties. Instead, he promises honesty, respect, and to never take my freedom for granted. 2 weeks into my Paris residency, I'm working late at the gallery when my phone rings. Minho's name lights up the screen. I'm in the city, he says without preamble. Have dinner with me? And just like that, the pattern of our relationship establishes itself. Independent lives that intersect with increasing frequency and intensity. He divides his time between his various businesses, ensuring he's in Paris when I am. I curate exhibitions that sometimes feature pieces from his collection. We build something neither of us expected, something that defies easy categorization. 6 months in, the trouble starts. A rival organization begins targeting Minho's legitimate art import business, using it to launder money through fake provenance documents. I discover the discrepancies while researching pieces for an exhibition. Subtle inconsistencies in the documentation that most people would miss but that my trained eye catches immediately. When I bring my concerns to Minho, his expression darkens. This is my problem to handle, Zora. Stay out of it. It's the first time he's ever shut me out, the first echo of Richard's controlling behavior, and it cuts deeper than I expected. Don't do that, I say, anger flaring. Don't treat me like I'm fragile or incapable. If someone's using art forgery to target you, I'm already involved. This isn't about art forgery, he snaps. This is about people who would think nothing of hurting you to get to me. I won't put you at risk. So your solution is to push me away? To make decisions for me? The parallels to Richard are too close for comfort. I thought you respected me more than that. This isn't about respect. It's about protection. Protection becomes control the moment you stop letting me choose. I counter. We really argue for the first time. He tries to shut me out for my own good. I refuse to be sidelined. We part in anger, each too stubborn to bend. For a week, we don't speak. It's the longest we've gone without contact since that first wrong number. I throw myself into my work, trying to ignore the ache in my chest. But I also continue my investigation into the forged provenance documents, using my art world connections to trace the patterns. What I discover sends ice through my veins. The forgeries aren't random. They're systematic, designed to implicate Minho in international art theft. Worse, they're connected to pieces that were originally looted during the Japanese occupation of Korea. A deliberate attack not just on Minho's business, but on his heritage, his family honor. I try calling him. He doesn't answer. Pride and fear war within me, but concern wins out. I book a flight back to the States, back to the city where this all began. When I arrive at Minho's building, his security team recognizes me immediately, but seems uncertain whether to let me up. Finally, one makes a call, speaks briefly in Korean, then nods me through. Minho is standing at the window when I enter, his back to me, shoulders rigid with tension. He doesn't turn when the elevator opens. You shouldn't have come, he says, his voice carefully neutral. Too bad, I reply, dropping my research onto his coffee table. Because I found something you need to see. That gets his attention. He turns, and the sight of him after weeks apart hits me like a physical force. He looks tired, shadows beneath his eyes, his usual immaculate appearance. Secretly frayed at the edges. What is this? He asks, gesturing to the papers. The complete picture of what your enemies are doing, I explain. They're not just using art to launder money. They're specifically targeting pieces with connections to Korea's colonial history. This isn't just business, Minho. It's personal. He scans the documents, his expression growing darker with each page. How did you get this information? I'm a curator. Researching provenance is literally my job. I cross my arms, and unlike you, I can ask questions in the art world without raising suspicion. No one thinks twice about a black woman academic being thorough. Minho looks up at me, something shifting in his expression. You did this despite our argument? Despite my attempts to keep you away from this situation? Because of our argument, I correct. Because you tried to protect me by shutting me out, and that's not how this works. Not between us. He crosses the room in 3 strides and pulls me into his arms, holding me so tightly I can hardly breathe. I was trying to keep you safe, he murmurs against my hair. I know, I reply, my arms wrapping around him just as fiercely. But I'm not safe if I'm not with you, and you're not whole if you're not with me. Minho pulls back just enough to look into my eyes. When did you become so wise? Somewhere between dialing a wrong number and falling in love with the man who answered, I reply honestly. His expression softens in a way I've never seen before. I love you too, Zora, more than I thought possible. Together, we use my research and his connections to dismantle the rival organization scheme. It's not simple or quick or bloodless, but we do it as partners. Minho learns to trust my strength just as I've learned to trust his protection. Not because either of us is weak, but because together we create something stronger than either could alone. A year to the day after I dialed that wrong number, we stand in the newly opened women's shelter Minho funded in my name. The building provides safe housing, legal services, and career counseling for women escaping situations like mine. A place where wrong numbers aren't necessary for rescue. Do you ever think about how differently things might have turned out? I ask him as we watch women and children settle into their new temporary home. If I dialed correctly that night, Minho considers the question with his usual thoughtfulness. I think some connections are inevitable, he says finally. If not that night, perhaps another. If not a phone call, perhaps an art exhibition. The universe has its own methods of bringing together those who need each other. That's surprisingly mystical coming from you, I tease. He smiles, that rare, genuine smile that still makes my heart race. Even the most pragmatic businessman must acknowledge when the evidence suggests something beyond coincidence. Later that night, in the home we now share, Minho presents me with a small box. Inside is a necklace, a delicate pendant shaped like a traditional Korean knot. The infinity knot, he explains as he fastens it around my neck. No beginning, no end. In our tradition, it represents the interconnectedness of all things. How even apparent mistakes, like wrong numbers, I interject softly, can be part of a larger pattern, he finishes. One we can't always see when we're too close to it. I touch the pendant, feeling its smooth curves beneath my fingers. It's beautiful. You're beautiful, he counters, in every way that matters. From a wrong number whispered in desperate fear to this moment of profound connection, the journey seems impossible. And yet here we are, proof that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures. That sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right one. That sometimes a stranger's voice saying, "Keep talking, I'm coming," can change everything. I once lived in a glass cage 60 stories above a city, a prisoner in my own home. Now I stand beside a man who would tear down buildings with his bare hands before he'd ever let me feel trapped again. A man who showed me that protection without possession is possible. That strength can be matched with strength, passion with passion, power with power, not in competition but in harmony. I dialed a wrong number and whispered, "He won't let me leave." A Korean Mafia boss answered, "Keep talking, I'm coming." And in that unlikely connection, I found not just rescue but redemption. Not just safety but partnership. Not just escape but a journey home to myself. Some would call it coincidence. Minho calls it inevitable. I call it the moment my real life began. The moment fear turned to fury, fury to freedom, and freedom to a love powerful enough to heal wounds I thought would never close.